Okay, hello. You are welcome back to Introductory Mathematical Analysis. Okay, this time we're going to be doing chapter 12.3, and chapter 12.3 talks about elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand. That is chapter 12.3. Okay. Alright, it's an extension of our further derivative, and we're going to see the use of derivative in the demand equation or in the demand function. Okay, so when we talk about elasticity of demand, we are talking about how we measure the change in price of a product. When there's a change in price, the quantity demanded, the change in the quantity demanded due to change in price. Okay, so I quickly write something. So elasticity of demand is a means by which we measure, by which economists measure how a change in the price, of a product will affect the quantity demanded. Okay, how a change in the price of a product will affect the quantity demanded. Okay, so we have that elasticity of demand is equal to the percentage change in quantity, all over the percentage change in price. Okay, the percentage change in quantity all over the percentage change in price. Okay, so if P is price and Q is the quantity, so we can have the demand function to be given as P as a function of Q. Okay, or we can also have Q as a function of P. We can also have Q as a function of P. We can have P as a function of Q. Okay, so it should be noted, note that the demand curve, be it P as a function of Q or Q as a function of P, okay, falls from left to right. That means, let me write that. Falls from left to right, falls from left to right. Okay. What that means is that as Q increases, P decreases. Or I can say as Q increases, P increases. That is what we did before. Now decreases now. as Q decreases, P increases. Okay, so please take note of that. Please take note of that. Now, okay, so now we're going to be giving what we're going to be doing, finding the elasticity of demand. We're going to be having the formula when we're given in terms of this or in terms of this. Okay, so take note of that. Now, that is very important. That's very important. Now, let's now talk about the point, the formula for the point elasticity of demand. Okay, by way of definition, so if P is given as a function of Q is a differentiable. It's a differentiable demand function. Now, the point elasticity of demand, so we donate this point elasticity of demand by this eta. Okay, at point QP is given by P over Q divided by the P over the Q. Okay, this formula is very important. Okay, I can write it this way. P over Q divided, okay, divided by the P over the Q. Okay, this formula is very important. That is the formula you are going to be using to find the point elasticity of demand. Okay, it is P over Q divided by the P over Q. That means when we are dealing with P given as a function of Q, P given as a function of Q, so we use this formula. Okay, that is the point elasticity of demand. And we need to know this point elasticity of demand has three categories of these categories of elasticity. Okay, number one category is that after we find our point elasticity of demand, we need to now take the absolute value of it, and if the absolute value of it is greater than 1, then the demand is elastic. Okay, if it is greater than 1, then the demand is elastic. If the point elasticity of demand is equals to 1, then we call this unit elasticity. Okay. But if it is less than 1, don't forget we are taking the absolute of it. The absolute of it. If it is less than 1, then it is inelastic. So the demand is inelastic. Here the demand has unit elasticity. Why here the demand is inelastic? So we are going to be finding that. We are going to be finding that. Okay, please take note of that. Now, I made mention that if this we are giving P as a function of Q, but what about when we are giving Q as a function of P? If we are giving P as a function of Q as a function of P, then our point elasticity, our point will be still P over Q, then multiply by the Q over the P. Okay, please, this is also very important. So here, when we are given P as a function of Q, P divided by Q divided by the P over the Q, because now we are differentiating with respect to Q, but here we are differentiating with respect to P, so it will be P over Q multiplied by the Q over the P. Okay, that is very important. Please take note of that. Please take note of that. Okay, let's take an example so that you can now understand what I'm saying better. Okay, example. Determine the point elasticity of the demand equation P equals to K over Q, where K is greater than 0 and Q is greater than 0. Okay, so we want to determine the point elasticity of demand of this, and let me add determine the point elasticity of demand and state if it is elastic, inelastic, or unit elasticity. Okay, all right. So let's go. Let's see the solution. The first thing to note is that we are giving P as a function of Q. So that shows what are we differentiating with respect to? We are differentiating with respect to P, Q. Okay, that is very important. So if I differentiate this now, I'm going to be getting, of course, that formula P equals to Q. This is the same thing as this one. Okay, I can write it like this. So the derivative of that will be negative Q, negative 2. Okay, that is the derivative. All right, now our point elasticity of demand will now be this formula P over Q divided, is divided now by the P over the Q. Okay, it will be divided by that. Okay, so let's now find that, which will now be P. What is our P? P is what is given to us, K divided by Q. Divide again by Q, then divided by the P over the Q, which is negative this. Okay, divide by that. All right, so this becomes K over Q square divided by, let me change this to this over Q square. All right, which will now be K over Q square times, so you can change this division to multiplication, will now be over negative K. So which will give us negative 1. This cancel this. This cancel this. This cancel this. Okay, it will be negative 1. Okay, so our point elasticity of demand, is negative 1. But we need to know what this means for us. So we take the absolute of it, take the absolute value of it. Okay, that will give us, which is negative 1, give us 1. Okay, giving us 1 means it is what? The demand is unit elasticity. Demand is unit elasticity. Okay, that is very important. Please take note of that. Okay, now we have two things. Number one, let me recap. When we are given as a function of, when p is a function of q, then we use p over q divided by the p over the q, because here we're differentiating with respect to q. But here when we are giving q as a function of p, then we are differentiating with respect to p, and then it will be divided by the q over the p. Okay, that is fine. Now, we want to now see how to look up elasticity and revenue. Elasticity and revenue. Okay, so we know revenue, which is R, is the same thing as P multiplied by Q. P multiplied by Q. This, we are using this when we have P as a function of Q. Okay, we are using this when we have P as a function of Q. Okay, so that is the revenue. Alright, so now we want to find this, we want to link up this revenue with elasticity. Okay, to do so, we just need to derive this one. So let's derive this. If you derive this, you are going to get the R over the Q with respect to Q now. We are deriving with respect to Q. Now, this is a product rule. So you hold on to P, derive Q, hold on to Q, derive P. But don't forget P is a function of Q. So if I derive that, I will have P, I'm holding on to P, I derive Q, that is 1, plus hold on to Q and derive P. And then you're going to get the P over the Q. Okay, that's fine. Now, if I factorize P out, I'm going to have 1 plus Q over P, the P over the Q. Okay, that is fine. Now, if you look at this, and we look at the formula for our point elasticity of demand before, let me state that formula. That formula, when our point elasticity, when we have P is a function of Q, is P over Q divided by the P over the Q. Okay, that is the formula we have. Now, if you look at this, okay, this is almost like this, only that now this is Q over P. So now that shows we are having 1 over what we have here. Okay, so if I want to replace it with what we have there, then this formula becomes P 1 plus, all these now become 1 over our point elasticity of demand. It becomes 1 over our point elasticity of demand. Okay, so now our change in revenue becomes this. Okay, that is our change in revenue. So our change in revenue becomes this when we're dealing with P as a function of Q. Okay, now when we're dealing with Q as a function of P, our marginal revenue now becomes Q1 plus point elasticity. Okay, so you see the difference between the two equations. Please take note of the difference between the two equations. Now, the change in revenue is now the R over the P, and then we are giving Q into 1 plus point elasticity. But when it is given in this form, then it is the R over the Q, And then we have P into 1 plus 1 over point elasticity. Okay, so these two formula, they are very important and they are useful for your calculations. Please take note of them. Thank you.